Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm the Book Geek, also known as Kiava, and this is going to be an anticipated book release video. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my 2021 anticipated book releases, if I read any of them, if I bought any of those books. Plus, I'm going to talk to you about my 22 most anticipated books for 2022. Before we get started with the new anticipated books, let's take a look back at my 2021 most anticipated books. So these are all the books that I was the most excited to read in 2021. Out of all of these books that I was excited for, here are the ones that I bought during 2021. So these are all my most anticipated books that I now own. And sadly, out of all of these books, here are the ones that I read. Out of all the books that I was excited for that were released in 2021, I only managed to read one of those books. I'm so ashamed. Okay, now on to the 22 books I'm excited for 2022. I didn't organize these by the months in which they get released. I just wrote down ones I saw that sounded interesting to me. So I probably won't go through and give all the release dates. Maybe if I'm feeling up to it, I'll put the release date at the bottom of the screen. The first book for 2022 that I'm excited to be released is titled Dead Silence. This is a horror story, and it is described as Titanic meets The Shining. That's all I needed to know. Pretty much. The next book is titled What Moves the Dead. This is supposed to be a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. I'm a fan of Edgar Allan Poe's work, so that's what interested me in this story. A retired soldier receives word that a childhood friend is dying. He races to the ancestral home, and when he gets there, he finds a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildlife surrounding a dark pulsing lake. Alex must unravel the secret of the House of Usher before it consumes them all. So it sounds very interesting. The cover is to die for as well. And this book is by T. Kingfisher, who is a very popular author apparently. The next book is another horror story. You'll see it in my goals video, but one of my goals is to read more horror in 2022. And I just love horror. I love horror movies. I've been watching horror movies since as long as I can remember. Since before I should have been watching horror movies. Since a tiny, tiny wee little thing. So it's only natural that I'm going to like horror books as well, which I love horror stories. This one is titled The Undead Truth of Us. This one is by Brittany S. Lewis. So I'm going to read the first paragraph of the synopsis because that's what hooked me. 16-year-old, Zari Young is absolutely certain her mother morphed into a zombie before her untimely death, but she can't seem to figure out why. Why her mother died, why her aunt doesn't want her around, why all her dreams seem suddenly hopelessly out of reach, and why ever since that day she's been seeing zombies everywhere. The cover is beautiful, and hey, zombies. I can't wait to see what this one is all about. I hope I can get to it this year. We'll just have to wait and see, guys. I don't know if just because I'm excited for these books in the new year in 2022 doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily get to them in 2022. I do want to make it a priority to make it through a lot of the lists that I've started for the new year. You know, book series that I want to read. I want to get through some of those books. Not all, because all is not possible for me. It's not practical. It's not realistic. Horror books that I want to read, I want to get through some of those because I can't get through all of them. And 2022 book releases, gotta get through some of them. Books on my shelf that I already own, I have to get through some of them. So, it's just a little bit at a time. Am I gonna check off every book off every list that I've created? No. But The goal is to get through a majority of them, at least some of them. The next book is another horror titled Sundial. Apparently, this is supposed to be a psychological horror. In this story, the character Rob only wanted a normal life. She almost gets her dream. She's worried about her oldest daughter, Callie, though. So she decides to take Callie back to her childhood home, to Sundial, deep in the Mojave Desert, and there she will have to make a terrible choice. Callie is worried about her mother. Rob has begun to look at her strangely and speaks of past secrets, and Callie fears that only one of them will leave Sundial alive. The mother and daughter embark on a dark desert journey to the past in the hopes of redeeming their future. Okay, this next one is a fantasy historical fiction novel. It's titled Siren Queen. Sounds very interesting. The tagline reads, "Immortality is just a casting call away." Magic in Hollywood. I'm interested in that. In this book, the character Luli, I hope I'm saying her name right, she wants to be in Hollywood. She knows the worst monsters in Hollywood are not the ones on screen. The studios want to own everything from her face to her name to the women she loves, and they run on a system of bargains made in blood and ancient magic. The next book is The Monsters We Defy. All I read was the first part of this synopsis, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Add to list. A woman able to communicate with spirits must assemble a ragtag crew to pull off a daring heist to save her community in this timely and dazzling historical fantasy that weaves together African American folk magic, history, and romance. And it's taking place during the 20s. I like that time period. This one sounds really interesting, not to mention one of the characters' name is Clara, and that's my mom's name. So sign me up. The next book is titled Nobody's Magic. The cover is stunning. This is going to follow several different women. It's supposed to be stories of Southern Black womanhood. It's going to explore grief, female strength, and self-discovery, set against a backdrop of complicated social and racial histories. The next book is titled Goliath. In the 2050s, Earth has begun to empty. Those with the means and the privilege have departed the great cities of the United States for the more comfortable confines of space colonies. They keep going to space. This might be a possibility. Those left behind salvage what they can from the collapsing infrastructure. As they eke out an existence, their neighborhoods are being cannibalized. Brick by brick. Their houses are sent to the colonies. What was once a home, now a quaint reminder for the colonists of the world that they wrecked. This sounds amazing. Wait a minute. Okay. A space dweller looking at New Haven, Connecticut as a chance to reconnect with his aspiring lover. I'm from Connecticut. I got to read this. Okay. What? A group of laborers attempting to renew the promises of Earth's crumbling cities, a journalist attempting to capture the violence of the streets, a marshal trying to solve a kidnapping into a richly urgent mosaic about race, class, gentrification, and who is allowed to be the hero of any history. So we have these different characters that are on these different journeys while all this other bullshit is happening with the colonists, the colonization and the gentrification of this, and is based in parts of Connecticut. This got to be top of the list. When is coming out? This comes out January 25th, 2022. I will be buying this book. I will for sure be buying this one and reading it this year. This is by Tochiana Bushi. I see Connecticut. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm from Connecticut. I have to read this. And this author, which I never even knew this, was born in Massachusetts and raised in Connecticut. I gotta read this. I gotta read all their stuff. Yes. Okay, that just got me really excited. Next book is titled Stories from the Tenants Downstairs. Set in a Harlem high-rise, a stunning debut about a tight-knit cast of characters grappling with their own personal challenges while the forces of gentrification threaten to upend life as they know it. This next one just sounded so weird yet very interesting to me. On June 2nd, 2016, a jogger spots this protruding rock from the Central Park Reservoir. 3 weeks later, when it finally stops growing, it's nearly 2.5 miles tall and has been determined to be an active volcano. As the volcano grows and then looms over New York, an 8-year-old boy in Mexico City finds himself transported 500 years into the past, where he witnesses the fall of the Aztec Empire. A Nigerian scholar in Tokyo studies a folktale about a woman of fire who descends a mountain and destroys an entire village. A white trans writer in Jersey City struggles to write a sci-fi novel about a thriving civilization on an impossible planet. A nurse tends to Syrian refugees in Greece while grappling with the trauma of living through the bombing of a hospital in Afghanistan. A nomadic farmer in Mongolia is stung by a bee, magically transforming him into a green thorn flowering creature that aspires to connect every living thing into its consciousness. With this riveting and audacious vision, My Volcano is a tapestry on fire, a distorted and cinematic new work from the fiercely talented John Elizabeth Stitzy. What the fuck is this book about? I don't know. But it just sounded so bizarre, I gotta read it and find out. I don't know what this shit is about. But I gotta know. I gotta know. It sounds fucking crazy. All right, baby. This next cover, they need to start having awards for best cover of a book of whatever. Because, woo! Bloodscion. This is book 1 in what I'm assuming is going to be a series. This is what they deserve. They wanted me to be a monster. I will be the worst monster they ever created. I read that and I was like, okay, I'm interested. I want to know what kind of monster you're going to turn into, honey. 15-year-old Sloane can incinerate an enemy at will. She is a scion, a descendant of the ancient Orisha gods. I read that first part and just added it because it sounded breathtaking. So this character, Sloane, is going to rise through the ranks and gain strength, but in doing so, risk something greater, losing herself entirely. Sounds amazing. The next book is a visual poem by Elizabeth Acevedo. It is titled Inheritance, and this is going to have full color illustrations. I cannot wait to read this. She's going to talk about the complexities of Black hair and the history, pain, pride, and powerful love of that inheritance. The next one is titled The Violence. A mysterious plague that causes random bouts of violence is sweeping the nation. Now 3 generations of women must navigate their chilling new reality in this moving exploration of identity, cycles of abuse, and hope. Now, one thing about me, I don't like to read these synopses word for word. I don't like sitting here reading out synopsis to you. You could have went and did that yourself. You know, I just like to just talk about a little snippet piece of it and just give the gist of what the book is about. And The Violence is a horror story. All right, we have a young adult science fiction fantasy type story. This one is titled Survive the Dome. This says it's Black Lives Matter meets Attack the Block with a dash of Under the Dome, and this stunning story of teens using their talents to liberate a city from unjust police occupation. A young aspiring journalist packs up his camera and heads to Baltimore to document a rally protesting police brutality after another Black man is murdered. But before it even really begins, the city implements a new safety protocol, the Dome. The Dome surrounds the city, forcing those within to subscribe to a total militarized shutdown. No one can get in and no one can get out. This is frightening. Alone in a strange place, Jamal doesn't know where to turn until he meets hacker Marco, who knows more than he lets on. And Catherine, an AWOL basic training graduate whose parents helped build the initial plans for the dome. As unrest inside of Baltimore grows throughout the days-long lockdown, Marco, Catherine, and Jamal take the fight directly to the chief of police, but the city is corrupt from the inside out and is going to take everything they have to survive the dome. Wow, this sounds powerful. This next book is titled Calling for a Blanket Dance. This is an adult book, and it's going to follow multi-generations, a moving and deeply engaging debut novel about a young Native American man struggling to find strength in his familial identity. How will this young man visualize a place for himself when the world hasn't given him a place to start with? The next one sounded, all of these sounded interesting, but I really like it when people throw little twists in certain type of stories, and this one is no exception. Waking Romeo. This is a young adult retelling. What if Juliet Capulet met someone who made her doubt true love? What if Wuthering Heights was a message to a time traveler? A cosmic reimagining of Romeo and Juliet in homage to two literary classics and a compelling novel about fate, love, and time travel. It's the year 2083. The location is London. The mission is to wake Romeo. Listen to this, because I can't explain it any better than they did in the synopsis. It's the end of the world, literally. Time travel is possible, but only forwards. And only a handful of families choose to remain in the now, living off the scraps that were left behind. Among these are 18-year-old Juliet and the love of her life, Romeo. But things are far from rosy for Jules. Romeo is in a coma. I'm a little congested. I'm still coming off from COVID. Romeo is in a coma, and she's estranged from her friends and family, dealing with the very real fallout of their wild romance. Then a handsome time traveler, Elias, arrives with an important mission that makes Jules question everything she knows about life and love. Can Jules wake Romeo and rewrite her future? So it's like a mashup. I just thought that sounded so different and so interesting. The next book is a young adult thriller. It is titled These Deadly Games. Let's play a game. You have 24 hours to win. If you break my rules, she dies. If you call the police, she dies. If you tell your parents or anyone else, she dies. Are you ready? When Crystal Donovan gets a message on a mysterious app with a video of her little sister gagged and bound, she agrees to play the kidnapper's game. At first, they make her complete bizarre tasks, steal a test and stuff it in a locker, bake brownies, make a prank call. But then Crystal realizes each task is meant to hurt and kill her friends one by one. I love this. I love these death game type of things, and I love stories and movies like this as well. I actually dressed up as the Jigsaw puppet, Billy the Puppet, for Halloween in 2021, so this is right up my alley. And this next book involves time travel. It has a very intricate plot that I am not going to read through all of this. I'm going to try and explain it the best I can. It is titled Sea of Tranquility. It is a science fiction / historical fiction novel, and it's going to take us from Vancouver Island in 1912 to a dark colony on the moon 300 years later, unfurling a story of humanity across centuries and space. It's supposed to be a novel of time travel and metaphysics that precisely captures the reality of our current moment. So this next one is a YA fantasy. It is titled The Darkening. Vesper Vale is the daughter of failed revolutionaries. When her mother was caught by the Queen's soldiers, they gave her a choice: death by the hangman's axe or death by the storm that surrounds the city and curses anyone it touches. She chose the storm, and when the Queen's soldiers, led by a paranoid prince, catch up to Vesper's father after 12 years on the run, Vesper will do whatever it takes to save him from sharing that fate. Even arm herself with her father's book of dangerous experimental magic. Even infiltrate the prince's elite squad of soldier sorcerers. Even cheat her way into his cold heart. This next book is a historical fiction horror. It is titled The Fervor. It is a psychological and supernatural twist on the horrors of the Japanese American internment camps in World War II. The next book is a new young adult thriller by Karen M. McManus, Nothing More to Tell. Be sure to keep your friends close and your secrets closer. 4 years ago, someone got away with murder. The most terrifying part is that they never left. I like the way Karen M. McManus writes her stories, so when I saw it was her, I just clicked on it and added it to my list. Okay, and finally, the last book that I'm excited for is titled Black Cake. Two estranged siblings must set aside their differences to deal with their mother's death and her hidden past. A journey of discovery that takes them from the Caribbean to London to California and ends with her famous black cake. We can't choose what we inherit, but can we choose who we become? This is a story of how the inheritance of betrayals, secrets, memories, and even names can shape relationships and history. We will journey through the life of a family changed forever by the choices of its matriarch. Okay, so that's it. Those are 22 books that I am highly anticipating that will be released in 2022. Let me know some exciting books that you've heard of that will be released in the new year. Put it down in the comment section. I'm always looking for more books to add to my ever-growing TBR, as if I have any more room for books. As if I don't have a large enough number of books to read already. But hey, they keep writing stories. We're going to keep reading them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss a video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.